Welcome to DFO Fantasy Show. It is Thursday, October 30th. We're at Halloween Eve. I don't know if anybody celebrates Halloween Eve, but happy Halloween Eve if you do. We've got an 11-game slate on our hands today on this Thursday. So busy slate ahead. We've also got a busy show ahead. We missed yesterday's show due to some illness, so we are back today. We've got a double show. We've got Waiver Wire Wednesday with Beebs, but we're actually not even going to cover the waiver wire. We're going to talk about some buy low and sell high candidates. And then we've got Dylan joining us in the second half of the show to talk about this weekend's best streaming targets. So very busy show. But before we get into all of that, let's start with the news and notes for October 30th. First, we've got a couple of signings to talk about. The Dallas Stars officially signed Thomas Harley to an 8-year extension that carries a $10.587 million AAV. Next, we've got the Utah Mammoth. They locked up Logan Cooley to an 8-year deal carrying a $10 million AAV. So two huge signings for both the Dallas Stars and the Utah Mammoth to get their young studs locked up. Now let's talk about some injury news. We've got William Nylander. He missed Monday's game with a lower body injury. Now, they were pretty coy about it. It's unclear if he missed just due to maintenance because it was the second half of back-to-back and he's been dealing with this lower body injury, or if he re-aggravated something on Tuesday. So it remains to be seen kind of what the deal is here with Nylander. I would just consider him questionable for Saturday as of now, and hopefully we get some more details either Thursday or Friday. Next is Zach Hyman from the Edmonton Oilers. He will not return to their lineup on Saturday. He was kind of always projected to miss all of October, to be back for the start of November. That will not be the case, according to head coach Chris Knobloch. He will miss at least another week. Robert Thomas of the St. Louis Blues is doubtful to play on Thursday, although encouraging sign is that he's progressing and they do not think he's going to be out long. But the Blues did recall Dalibor Dvorsky, who was the 10th overall pick previously. He will make his season debut, 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists in 6 AHL games this year. Really nice AHL season last year. Highly touted young player. See if he can make some waves in this Blues lineup that is desperate for some offense and some goaltending. I don't think he can strap on the pads tonight, though. Let's keep going now. We got the Dallas Stars. Rupe Hintz did not travel on the Stars' 2-game road trip to Florida, but Matt Duchene did. So there's a chance Duchene returns Thursday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Rupe Hintz will miss at least a couple more games, which means a couple more games for Tyler Seguin to potentially skate on that top line with Mikko Rantanen. Next, we've got Connor Garland. He suffered an undisclosed injury on Tuesday and is not believed to have traveled with the Canucks on their 3-game road trip. The injury bug here in Vancouver has just reached incredible heights. It's unclear if Quinn Hughes will be back this evening, but man, oh man, the Canucks are just dealing with a ton of injuries right now, and it's a team that's not playing great either, so bad time for the injury bug to strike. Speaking of the injury bug, it seems to not be leaving Shane Gostisbehere. He suffered a new injury. He returned to the lineup and then suffered a new injury in his first game back. It was a mid-body injury. He's expected to be out longer than day-to-day, but potentially not long-term. I don't really know what to ever make of anything that Rod Brind'Amour says, but it sounds like he's going to miss some time. Hopefully we get a clearer timeline on Thursday. They said he was going to be reevaluated on Wednesday. So, yeah, he could be out for a couple days or the entire year based on Rod Brind'Amour's assessment. So we'll see what happens there with Shane Gostisbehere. Sean Walker expected to be the top power play unit quarterback and play some big minutes tonight for the Hurricanes. And Alexander Nikishin's filled in nicely as of late. He's going to see some PP2 time. Good young player. Both should be available on some waiver wire. So that's going to do it for today's news and notes for October 30th. Now let's get to Brock's Lock of the Day. As always, Brock's Lock of the Day is presented to you by our friends at 5v5 Hockey. They have an excellent shot prop and assist and point, block, and goal save prop model here on 5v5 Hockey. And right now they are offering a 7-day free trial if you want to sign up at 5v5 Hockey to check out this prop model. It's been working wonders for us thus far. The other night, we had Kirill Marchenko to hit 3+ shots on goal, and he did so in the first period, so you love to see that. He ended up finishing that game with 6 shots on goal, bringing our season record to 5-3, a plus 16.3 ROI percentage so far. Tonight's Brock's Lock of the Day, we're going to scroll down just a little bit here to Brock Faber. So the first Brock Brock combination on the Brock lock of the day. Faber has just been destroying this line on the season. He's hit this mark in 73% of his games thus far, but he's now hit it in 5 consecutive games, as you can see on screen here if you're watching on YouTube. And he has 12 shots on goal in his last 2 games alone. Now, those games were against the Jets and the Sharks, who give up a ton of shots against, but so do the Pittsburgh Penguins. They give up the 2nd most shot attempts and the 5th most shots on goal, setting Faber up for another big game tonight. He's averaging 2.7 shots on goal and 4.9 shot attempts per game on the season. But that's climbed up quite a bit, as I mentioned, in the last 5 games, where he is now averaging 4.0 shots on goal and 6.2 shot attempts in the last 5. So I absolutely love Brock Faber tonight. The line is minus 145 for 2+ shots on goal. So give me Faber at least 2 shots tonight. That is Brock's lock of the day. And now we will welcome in our friend Beebs Bondy. We are going to talk about some buy low, sell high candidates. Beebs, going to be a different show today, not our typical waiver wire Wednesday. We figured if we're doing it on Thursday, might as well change it up a bit. And honestly, a lot of the names that we've talked about in recent weeks are still pretty available on the waiver wire and still players that we like. And we just don't want to have to reiterate the same names every single time. So if you're looking for some waiver wire suggestions, go back and watch some previous episodes. There's probably some guys in there that you can find. Beebs, me and you approach things a little bit differently, so this will be a fun show. I'm a little bit more data-driven, a little bit more analytical. You're a little bit more vibes. So it'll be fun to dive into the data here. What I've done to make things pretty easy on both of us is I have taken every single player that is owned in 25% or more of leagues, and I have taken a wide array of stats, whether it's goals, whether it's assists, whether it's shooting percentage, on ice shooting percentage, goals above expected, goals below expected, on ice goals above expected, on ice goals below expected, PDO. Like, I took everything that's kind of predictive in a way to try to figure out, like, hey, these players are good sell high candidates. These players are good buy low candidates based on the data. We parsed through the data, found some of our favorites. We're going to talk to you about 4 buy low, 2 each, 4 sell high, 2 each. And then we had a couple of Twitter mentions, people wondering what they should do with some players. We're going to go over them really quick at the end of the show. But Beebs, welcome in. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good. A couple things, Brock. I believe it's Devil's Night you were looking for earlier when you were saying Halloween's Night Eve, but we got there. I was sitting in the back of the studio yelling at the screen like I do when I listen to every podcast of a radio show, and I'm like, I want to answer these questions. But we're doing fantastic. I will say, in my defense, on top of my vibes, I do use quite a bit of data too to look at some of these guys. There, I was like, oh, I should probably tell people I'm not just like, yo, I love this guy.
Not pure vibes, but I think we could say that I might be a little bit more.
Hundo. I don't think there's anyone in the world who uses more numbers than you in regards to fantasy hockey, Brock, which is props because they work out quite well. But you mentioned it. We always get to a lull every season where we kind of suggest many guys that they become too overowned, and then there's really no options without kind of going back to just players that we aren't that excited about. So it's a great time to do this episode. I know a lot of people have been in panic mode over some of these guys that, should they sell them? Should they hang tight or should they buy low? So this is going to be great. Really excited here. Let's get into some names, you number loving gentlemen.
I just noticed in the private chat, it's called Devil's Night, fella. So it sets up well for the New Jersey Devils tonight as well in San Jose. So Devils on Devil's Night could have a big game. Okay, let's dive into the data here. We've got, we're going to talk about 4 names extensively, but I think the one thing that we're going to also do is you're going to see other names on screen if you're watching on YouTube that if you're holding on to them, you could probably feel pretty good about them, just by seeing that they're very high in the buy low category. You can expect some better days ahead. But I am going to scroll down just a little bit to find my first buy low candidate, and that's Jason Robertson. He is obviously a very talented player, a player that we liked a lot in the preseason as well. But a bit of a slow start here. Still 9 points in 10 games. So don't get me wrong. He's still having a good season. You're not going to just get him for free on the trade market, but really struggling in terms of just actually converting. The data is in his favor in a big way because if you take a look at the goals scored below expected for Jason Robertson, he's currently at 2.3 individual goals scored below expected, which could have 2 more goals. If he had 2 more goals, he all of a sudden has 5 goals in 10 games. He's on pace for 40 plus goals. But the on ice goals expected versus real is 4.5. So he could probably stand to have at least a couple more assists right now. So if you're sitting here looking like, okay, this guy could realistically have 5 goals and 8 assists, which would put him at 13 points in 10 games, we would be feeling a lot differently about Jason Robertson. So I think right now is a good time to try to buy low. Again, it's still going to cost you a pretty penny, don't get me wrong, but I think that you can get them much lower today than you might in a week, in a month, because things are certainly going to be looking better for Jason Robertson. Him and Wyatt Johnson have performed extremely well here. If you're into charts, we got the charts here for you as well. If you were in the top right-hand quadrant, means you're a sell high candidate. You see some of those names we'll talk about here in a little bit. Jason Robertson finds himself down here in the bottom left-hand corner, which means he is a buy low candidate. There's some names that are obviously a little bit better, but boy, oh boy, a guy that definitely deserves a little bit more than he's gotten so far. So according to the data of all players 25% owned or higher, he is the 18th best buy low candidate right now. Beebs, who is your first buy low candidate?
I will admit I laughed when Brock chose Robertson yesterday. I said, "Oh, nice, our yearly buy low of Jason Robertson," because it seems to come around every year. And then if you look at his end of year stats, it usually turns out to be quite a good suggestion. So I love that one. Always been a RoboCop fan, as you know, if you're a fan of the podcast over the years. But speaking of guys I'm fans of, Mika Zibanejad out in New York, he grades out incredibly well on Brock's charts. And just someone who it's kind of glaringly obvious that he's a buy low right now. He has 6 points in 11 games. That's 4 goals, 2 assists. But he has 39 shots on goal during that time, currently occupying their top power play and their top 6, averaging 21.04 time on ice. So New York as a whole has kind of been facing just a massive case of unlucky puck luck. It seems we've seen a bunch of guys just pepper the net and not really have much happen. We've seen them run into, as I like to call them, impossible goalies, where you just can't beat a goalie that night. It seems to be happening left, right, and center to New York, but it's a long 82-game season, and when you shoot a lot, when you do the right things, that's going to change. Mika Zibanejad's kind of been that guy there. As I mentioned, 39 shots in 11 games. That places him 10th in the NHL in shots on goal, which is just incredible at this point of the year. But as I mentioned, only gives him 4 goals. Right now, that'd still put him on pace for a 30-goal season. Where I really like Zibanejad and where I think you can kind of snake him away from people is he only has 2 assists right now. Zibanejad's kind of the staple of how to get assists in the NHL the last couple of years. Since 2020, 2021, which was a shortened season for him, he hasn't finished below 42 assists in a season. So I totally expect him to come closer to the means that we've seen in the last couple of years. It's not like he's just become a puck hog overnight. And with this early shot production, we could be in for some very nice totals for Zibanejad that we haven't seen in a couple of years. He's currently on pace for 290 shots on goal. And when you throw the biscuit on net that much, it doesn't even matter your puck luck at a certain point. It's just going to start to go in. You're going to start to have rebounds occur, and that's where the assists come. Zibanejad's kind of known as a hot and cold player over the years, someone that I know personally I've gotten quite upset with. But then when he comes back and goes on these hot streaks, you're literally laughing, and you're like, how did anyone not see this coming? Last year, we watched him go 19 points in a 15-game stretch mid-year, considering he only had 62 points. It's almost a third of his points in about 1/6 of games played. But then in the playoffs last year, he really showed up. 11 points in his last 6 games played. Fantastic production. Just shows how hot he can get when it all works. Another thing that's kind of been working in his favor this year, maybe it's just what happens when he's angry and the puck isn't going in the net. Mika Zibanejad has 15 hits this year. He's over a hit per game. He's contributing in banger leagues. And as I mentioned, 10th in the NHL in shots on goal. It's very rare you can get someone with that type of production for this low of a price. I think people are really, really starting to get pissed off with him. The 14.3 power play in New York is definitely going to improve. That's worse than Anaheim's last year. So I definitely expect better things out in New York. And when that happens, I want a piece of the pie, and that involves a couple players. Brock, I think you got a few other options here that you wanted to mention on the Rangers roster there.
Yeah, before we do, just to clarify, that was 2 years ago as a Zibanejad in the playoffs.
Yep.
Rangers not a playoff team a season ago. But if you take a look here on
Yeah.
screen, this is
Sorry,
a
I meant
team.
fantasy playoffs.
Oh,
I never
fantasy
once,
playoffs. Okay,
yeah,
I was
never
gonna
once
say.
referenced. I was gonna say, well, yeah, no, they,
Okay, that
the
makes perfect
blue
sense.
shirts did not touching the extra
That
time.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
yeah,
The
my
Rangers, as
fantasy.
you see here, the whole team is basically a buy low right now. I think Igor Shesterkin obviously hasn't looked great, but this is a team that should have better results than they have. This whole team feels like a buy low right now. Lafreniere ranks as our number one buy low candidate overall. Basically, get him on the waiver wire at this point. Zibanejad's down to 75% rostered. Will Cooley, 10th best buy low candidate. Artemi Panarin, 15th best. JT Miller, 16th best. Like, this whole team is a buy low candidate right now. This team, in all situations right now, is scoring 1.3 goals scored below expected in all situations, according to Sports Logic. That's 1.3 goals scored below expected per game. So they are missing at least a full goal per game right now. The second worst mark in the league is the Calgary Flames at minus 0.84. So, like, almost an entire half a goal less than the second worst team in the league. Just showcases how unlucky this New York Rangers team has been. And yeah, I think, like, I've had some people reaching out to me pissed off about Artemi Panarin. Hasn't gone the way I thought it was going to go to start the season. But again, I think this whole team is in a good opportunity to buy low on them right now, because I think, like you said, better days are definitely ahead.
Yeah, quickly, I wanted to shout out to for Banger Leagues. Will Cully, currently really struggling. He was struggling out of the gate. He's had a couple points in a few games now, but one of 5 players in the league who could actually hit 300 hits last year. I know I had a couple people in Banger Leagues actually mentioning he was on the waiver wire. He's now lined up on line 1 at the moment, so he's likely going to get the most ice he's seen yet, which should lead to more hits, more shots, and just a 20-25 guy last year. So there's definitely a chance here. Someone who the sky's kind of the limit here, and an absolute dog for Banger Leagues. I know people go nuts about Kiefer Sherwood, so they should be doing relatively the same here about William Cully. But who's your buy low here, Brock?
Yeah, Cooley's in a good spot, I think. Just one other thing I wanted to mention about Mika Zibanejad before we move on. You talked about the shot volume. He's on pace for nearly 500 shot attempts, which would blow away his previous career high. So he is a guy that is shooting the puck at will right now. My next buy low is Carter Verhaeghe, somebody that we were extremely high on the podcast during the preseason, and a guy that I have tremendous stocks in. I think what's really this episode might have been more like to make me feel better about my fantasy teams. Like, I'm still doing well right now,
Me too,
but I have a ton of Mika Zibanejad and I have a ton of Carter Verhaeghe. So I'm like, okay, like maybe things will get better. But so unfortunately, I can't buy low on either of these guys. And if anybody's offering me trades for them after the show, they are probably getting instant rejected. But yeah, like Verhaeghe, obviously this entire Panthers team is struggling a little bit right now. Like, you'd expect this offense to find its way. Obviously, no Barkov, no Kachuk. They've had some other injuries to deal with. So we've got Verhaeghe sitting with just 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists in 11 games. But the shot volume remains very strong. 63 shot attempts in 11 games. He's shooting just 6.9%. So again, if you take a look at actual goals versus expected goals for him this year, he is the 8th worst mark in the league, 2.5 goals scored below expected. The on-ice goals scored below expected ranks him 22nd at 4.7. So another player that just probably deserves a better fate right now, shooting just 6.9%. He's a 13% career shooter, so his shooting percentage could nearly double. He has an on-ice shooting percentage of just 7.1%, something that is going to drastically increase. His career mark is around 10.3%, which is right around league average. Last year, or 2 years ago, excuse me, it was at 11.6. So it's something that can take a jump up. Obviously, we don't expect them to be an elite offensive team with all of the bodies that they're missing right now. But again, take a look at our chart here. Mika Zibanejad, bottom left, as bottom left as you can go. The only one more left of him is Alexis Lafreniere, his teammate. And then Carter Verhaeghe right next to Jason Robertson to represent both just great buy low candidates right now. I think Robertson, obviously somebody that you're going to have a big offer for. Verhaeghe, though, a little less so. I don't think it's going to take a ton to get Carter Verhaeghe away from owners besides myself. The same thing as you mentioned with Mika Zibanejad. I think he's such a good buy low because he really is a buy low. Like, he is not going to cost you all that much. So
it's been 2 years, dude, like of buy low. And it literally, like, I support this. And yeah.
100%. I like both of those names as really, like, those are the type of names it feels like you can probably get them for, like, somebody that you picked up off the waiver wire that is just scorching hot. I might cost a little bit more than that, but I don't think it's going to be crazy. Let's talk about your second buy low candidate.
Yeah. And I think that was a fantastic reference for when we get to our sell highs later, because there's a few candidates we're going to lay down there that I would definitely trade for Carter Verhaeghe. We'll cross that bridge, though, when we get there. My sell low here, I really wish he didn't have a 3-point night on Frozen Frenzy, but it's Evan Bouchard out in Edmonton. He still needs a mention just because, Brock, before Tuesday, I was actually fielding questions on, should we do a Bouchard for Schaefer trade? And I had a lot of people who were, I actually had someone on Twitter who came and said I was dumb for even mentioning, Schaefer's usage is so good right now. Yes, it's fantastic, but Evan Bouchard is Evan Bouchard. I haven't used that selling of a player in a while, and I'm certainly happy to bring it back here. 7 points in 11 games to start the year. That's not fantastic, but it's and it's something that might have pissed off some people who kind of reached early on Evan Bouchard. He's got 1 goal in 11 games played. He's a -7 ±, so he's hurting teams in that regard. He has 30 shots on goal. The stock is obviously back up, as I mentioned, after the 3-assist game, but it still doesn't mean that it's where it should be right now. Bouchard owners are going to probably be mad because they expected high goal scoring potential, closer to 20 goals from the defense that they likely paid a premium to acquire. And all they've gotten is 1 goal in that time on 30 shots on goal. He currently ranks 3rd among all D, tied with, actually surprisingly mentioned earlier, Brock's boy, Brock Faber, with 30 shots on goal for 3rd in the league. That's crazy. Only behind Zach Werenski and Cale Makar. And that's kind of where I put my foot down of players that I wouldn't trade for Evan Bouchard. I think everyone else behind him, maybe Quinn Hughes, you have a case. I would trade for him, even regardless of this slow start. He's currently shooting 3.3%, which is not very good. It's 3% below his career average. This guy's had a very successful long career, so it's not like we're just pinching numbers here. You could definitely make a case too if you're in a league. I mean, this is a crazy hypothetical, but if you can convince someone that Jake Wallman's been hot, he has 5 points in his first 5 games. You can maybe throw a little bug in their head that, hey, Bouchard's been struggling. Maybe they try Wallman on power play 1. That's never going to happen. Like, never. That's not even a thought. But 5 points in 5 games. I know that people like to jump the gun, so you can maybe do that one. Bouchard he's 3rd in points in his last 3 seasons among all defense. He has 156 and 174 games. He's 6th in goals with 33 during that time, and he's 3rd in shots on goal. So he just fills all categories, which is needless to say, or which is basically to say, as my earlier point, trade basically any D-man you can for Bouchard. At this point, realistically, you're going to get the production. He's proven it, and don't let that first slow bit scare you at all. Also, Zach Hyman, we kind of announced he is going to come back eventually, and when he does, things flow better in Edmonton. He wins puck battles. He is a 20-minute-a-night guy, and someone who could help someone who struggles on defense like Evan Bouchard. So as we've kind of alluded to in previous episodes, the whole machine flows when Hyman's there, and when Bouchard's flowing, it's a beautiful thing. We've seen him be over a point per game in the playoffs before, the actual playoffs, not the fantasy playoffs. I love Evan Bouchard. We've loved him coming in, and it actually floors me that his stock has dropped like anywhere, even when the shot production's right there. There's no red flags here.
Yeah, appreciate you clarifying playoffs versus fantasy playoffs that time around. Makes a lot more sense.
Going forward.
We have Evan Bouchard as the best buy low candidate on the blue line. Speaking of somebody that you could maybe trade for him, if we take a look at the best sell highs on the blue line, like obviously Trouba, Dylan, Montour, Wallman, Gosper, those guys probably are going to get it done. But I look at a guy like Mikhail Sergachev. That's a trade that you could probably make 1-for-1 right now, or at least send the offer and potentially pull that one off. So I think that's a good place to start, at least if you've got Mikhail Sergachev on your roster. Just looking a little bit deeper at the data here for Evan Bouchard in terms of on ice expected goals versus actual goals, second worst mark in the entire NHL, minus 8.9 goals scored below expected while on the ice so far this season. So especially with Hyman coming back, like you said, that's a guy and a team and a power play that I expect to be much better here in the second half of the season, or I guess the second month of the season. Let's now get to our sell high candidates, and I'm going to start with number 3 on the list here. We've got Jack Eichel. Now, before I start and get you guys all yell at me and say that's insane, why would I trade Jack Eichel? He's been insane. The data suggests that Jack Eichel is a good sell high candidate for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's shooting 18%. He's a career 11% shooter. 8 goals in 10 games, 19 points. He has an on-ice shooting percentage of 18.5%. Those numbers just are not going to continue. It's just not possible. He's scoring 3.5 goals above expected. His on-ice goals above expected is, as I pull it up here, 23rd highest in the league. It's just like, I'm not trading Jack Eichel just to trade Jack Eichel. Let me be clear about that. But like the way things have started in Edmonton, the way things that should improve in Edmonton, like Jack Eichel for Leon Draisaitl, Jack Eichel for Connor McDavid. Like these are offers that I'm throwing out there and just seeing what happens. Obviously, we're talking more redraft leagues. I would imagine it's going to be a little bit of a tougher sell in like keeper formats and stuff like that. But I think this is the perfect opportunity. These metrics just are not going to continue. And quite honestly, like the 5v5 numbers for the Vegas Golden Knights just really have not been that impressive. Like they've got some work to do on that end of the puck. And you take a look at Jack Eichel's numbers in terms of on ice 5v5 production, 3.22 expected goals for per 60 solid, but 27.9 scoring chances. Like they're good. They're just not elite like you would think when you got a guy here with 19 points leading the NHL in that category. So I was a big fan of Eichel in the preseason. I've got him on a few teams. I'm happy for it, but I'm shopping him because it's just not going to continue this hot. So I am selling high on Jack Eichel where I can. Bring up the chart here. Jack Eichel, far right-hand quadrant, but I see one name just above him there, and I believe he is your sell high candidate. So hit us with Shane Pinto.
Give me that low-hanging fruit, Rock. I got it. I got Shane Pinto, friend of the show. We'll call it what it is. He was suggested on here just a few weeks ago by yours truly when he was closer to mid-20s% owned, when we've now seen him absolutely skyrocket and in own percentage. And at a certain point there, lead the NHL in goals as of last week. We've seen that since change. He's currently 5th in the NHL in goals. Shane Pinto, though, started the season fantastic. We love it. 10 points in his first 11 games. He's got 8 goals, 2 assists, 33 shots on goal. That's good for, according to my quick math here, 3 shots per game, which is pretty nice. I usually pop off about that. And granted, while I'm getting this excited about Shane Pinto and I'm saying trade him, I'm kind of like Brock here. I'm saying, get your value while you can. He's obviously not a Jack Eichel. I know you can't pull that much with a Shane Pinto, but I'm more giving you you strike while the iron's hot, because I think the iron's about to get a little bit colder and you might be stuck with a Shane Pinto on your roster. Wishing you made a deal earlier. We watched Pinto fall off power play 1 recently, which is a little bit scary, and drop to line 3 out in Ottawa. The production hasn't faltered due to this. Neither has really the time on ice, but it is, you don't want necessarily a guy not on a team's top power play and not in the top 6. His 33 shots a goal and 8 goals still look fantastic. But as I mentioned, he's bound to come down to earth. And if you can kind of convince someone that maybe he's like a Pavel Dorofeyev to a team, then like that type of hype, then you might be in for something. Personally, I think Pavel Dorofeyev has a lot more value than Pinto. Just seems like he's in a lot more of a score-friendly position, and he is their top power play option. Pinto's previous career highs were 21 goals and 37 points. That's just 16 assists. So his inability to get assists is almost Chris Kreider-esque. I think Brock kind of mentioned it when we originally did the episode, but we kind of have to look for comparables. And Kreider's was fantastic in previous years, but you did know that he was not going to provide much in that assist column, and it kind of capped him off as a fantasy asset. We haven't seen that kind of show itself with Pinto just because we are only 11 games in. But say we get to game 22 and he has only 4 assists, that's where it starts to become a little bit more glaring. With his 33 shots on goal, he's shooting an insane 24.2%. His career average is 13.3%. That's more than a 10% difference. So again, likely to come back down to earth. The return of Drake Batherson has kind of ignited this Ottawa team, and their power play has been an absolute freak. I believe he has something like 7 points in his last 3 games. So seeing that happen, as well as Dylan Cousins kind of take a step forward, unfortunately, it's kind of pushed Pinto back a little bit, even though he's playing well. So before people catch on to what's happening, I think you should try to move him. Brock kind of mentioned earlier, you might not be able to get for say like a 1-for-1 with a guy like this, but it's a fantastic sweetener and someone who's not going to cost you anything. Because as we mentioned, if you're listening to the show and you got him off your free agency, I don't think anyone drafted this guy out of the gate. So it's all bonus from here on out. The only thing in Ottawa that I would like to see change is maybe move Ridley Gregg off the top unit, bring Pinto up there. But even if he does move up there, I still think you can convince people that he is a better player than some guys who maybe started slow out of the gate. And I would rather just take someone who's a proven fantasy asset than someone whose career high is 37 points. So as I mentioned, Shane Pinto, low-hanging fruit here, but there are a lot of people who will look at that 8 goals in 11 games and go, hubba, I want some Shane. So make it happen.
He in terms of goals scored above expected, second highest in the league. In terms of on-ice goals scored above expected, sixth highest in the league. So been extremely fortunate to get where he's got. And he's still, even with that incredible rate, just 2 assists. So I think that 2 guys we mentioned earlier, Mika Zibanejad, Carter Verhaeghe, 2 guys I'd rather have, 2 guys that I think that you could do those trades 1-for-1, and I
think someone takes Pinto for Verhaeghe. Like I'm not even, a lot of times I create ridiculous hypotheticals. I think a Pinto for Verhaeghe trade happens for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
And I'd rather have Verhaeghe. I think we can all agree to that.
My next, yes, I agree 100%. My next sell high is Cole Caulfield. Now, once again, these are both spicy sell highs, right? Jack Eichel, Cole Caulfield. Like, I'm not saying you just trade Cole Caulfield for whatever, but by far and away, the guy that scored more goals above expected this year, 4.5. Next highest is Shane Pinto at 3.8. So it's not really particularly close. In terms of on-ice goals scored above expected, 13th highest rate in the entire NHL. He's just been extremely fortunate to get to where he's gotten thus far, and that's fine. It's been a great start. If you drafted him, you're happy. He dropped a little bit in drafts. You got great value on him. Leads the NHL in goals with 9 in 11 games, but he's shooting 29%. It is just far too high. The on-ice shooting percentage, 16.7%. Like, it's just a very obvious case of regression coming here for Cole Caulfield. He's had a couple of just monster performances. And again, like, this is a name and a player that people like, and you're going to see him with 13 points and 9 goals in 11 games, and you can trade him for a big name. Just to give you some options here in terms of some of the best buy low candidates that we haven't mentioned, like, I don't know, Artemi Panarin. I think I'd rather have Panarin, perhaps. Braden Point, I think, is probably an ideal target if you aren't just completely locked up at center. Austin Matthews, you could probably even go there. Tage Thompson, like, those guys are names that I would be kind of shooting for. You can even do more of like a 2-for-2 and try to really shoot for the stars and package 2 sell highs together and try to get like a McDavid or a Draisaitl, somebody that's slowed out of the gate here. Again, you'd have to obviously have an incredible offer to land those 2. I'm very aware of that. But again, bringing up our chart here, Cole Caulfield as big of a sell high candidate as there is right now. And again, yeah, you want to make sure that you're getting as good a value as you can. Don't just get rid of them for nothing, because the production is still going to be fine, but just make sure you're trying to sell high when you can. Let's close it out with our final sell high candidate, Beebs.
Yeah, actually, that's prior to us. I think we're going to do a couple Twitter questions. But really quick here, flashback to a previous season ago when Brock suggested Cole Caulfield, and it actually made its way to socials, but no one, someone forgot to mention that it was a fantasy-related hypothetical.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of Montreal fans getting mad at us, and then understandably so. Like, why would you trade your superstar?
Yeah, producer Andy's going to have to make sure that it's well-known this time.
Let's clarify that. Absolutely. But Andy's a dog. He'll figure that out. And while I'm kind of on the opposite end of Brock on sell highs here, I went with Pinto as clearly a free agent pickup, and compared to his Eichel, who was a drafted player, I'm going to do the same thing again here and go with another low-hanging fruit, but one that needs to be talked about. It's Justin Brazeau out in Pittsburgh. A lot of you are probably rolling your eyes going, no shit, I should sell him high. But you know what? I'm here just to kind of tell you to do it right away. Brazeau has 12 points in 11 games played this year, 6 goals, 6 assists. He's been fantastic. He's been an absolute dog of a signing for them. But they've already gotten their value out of him, and I would probably be content if the year ended right now and he still had 11 or 12 points after 82 games with what they paid him. Brazeau picked up these 12 points while only having 21 shots on goal and only averaging just above 13 26 time on ice. Both of those very alarming trends and patterns. He's currently lined up on line 2 in Pittsburgh with Evgeny Malkin, who's going absolute ape right now. It's great to see. And the reason I kind of wanted to bring up Brazeau was because originally I brought up Malkin to Brock. I said, hey, it seems like a quick sell high. And this was before we kind of looked at the numbers, and then we broke it down. And I think that Brock, you kind of backed this up, but Malkin actually seems like he might be able to consistently, maybe not keep a league leading point pace up, but it's definitely more doable than what we're seeing from Brazeau here.
It looks, Malkin's numbers surprise me. It looks a lot more sustainable than not. Like, he actually ranks better as a buy low candidate than a sell high candidate. So if people are trying to like fire you Malkin right now as like a sell high option, like, I think I would take it. It looks, based on the numbers, it looks a lot more sustainable than I thought it probably would. And I think the underlying metrics for this line have been really, really solid. The on ice shooting percentage at 20% for Malkin, I don't think that's going to continue. Like, I do think, like you said, is he going to finish with 80 assists? No, but he's a guy that just 2 years ago had 40 assists and last year had 34 assists in 68 games. So the assist production can still be really solid for Malkin. Obviously, just a strict center at his age, it's not the best fantasy asset, but I was surprised at the data for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then one that deserves a shout out, hilarious to think as a buy low. Meanwhile, he's right up there in the league for points. But back to Brazeau here. And again, as I mentioned, people will be rolling their eyes saying clearly you should trade him. But what I'm kind of alluding to here is if you can get a player who is rostable for the full year, not a like someone who started slow, even someone like Zibanejad, you might be able to pull that off. If you have to go Brazeau with a little bit more sweetener on there, you still are going to get a top 100 player, in my opinion, for a guy who basically doesn't have a lot of fantasy value going forward. One thing a lot of people don't realize, and who knows when it's going to happen, but Rutger McGroarty is currently skating now in Pittsburgh. He is the future out there, unfortunately, because they are surrounded by a lot of older veterans. And Rutger McGroarty is a right winger who basically should demand top 6 time. And if you look at Pittsburgh's top 6, there's one glaring spot where someone has to be bumped, and that is Justin Brazeau on that second line. Granted, if he can keep at a point per game pace, I don't think he can. He might keep himself on that line, but as we've seen, he's at 13:26 time on ice. That's actually a near minute and a half more than his previous career high in average. It's not like, we're not cracking open a breakout here. This is the definition of a hot start and pretty much the opposite of what's happening to the Rangers right now. He also has Ville Koivunen sitting right behind him in Pittsburgh. Again, people might laugh. They say no points in 7 games, but this guy had 3 power play points in eight games played last year as a rookie. So it does prove that, they kind of do think he could be an offensive option if things start to go stale in the top 6 there. So for me, if you can move Brazeau for anyone who you would have drafted on day one, that still kind of holds a little bit of value. I love the move. I just had to bring it up here. 3 days ago, I would have said, no, don't even talk about trading him. But as he keeps producing, it seems that he's putting this blindfold over people's eyes. So, we wanted to address that.
Yeah, I think some of the names that stand out to me as options here, I don't think anybody's really actively trading for Justin Brazeau. Potentially it's possible, but like Alexis Lafreniere, I think is an option. 100%. Like Steven Stamkos, like those are the type of guys that you could probably target here and maybe pull off a trade.
I think deeper the league, the more value you're going to get for Brazeau, of course. But
yeah, I don't think they're going to touch that second line either. The way that they've been playing, like I don't think he's in jeopardy of losing his spot. Like 3.3 expected goals, 4/60, 16 high danger chances, 31 scoring chances. Like they've been awesome. I don't think they're going to touch it anytime soon. But again, obviously they're going to cool off eventually. McGroarty probably more of a Raquel replacement with Raquel being out, but we'll see how things continue to go.
Yeah, he might still be a while. Like he just started skating. He's not even like skating with the team. He's skating like by himself out at a college campus. So
let's get to some of the Twitter people. Twitter we're asking about. Let's get to Kirill Marchenko first. To me, grades out very nicely here in terms of just the middle of the pack. I think he's an absolute hold. I wouldn't be trying to trade Kirill Marchenko. I think that he is just a tremendous, tremendous hockey player. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points in 10 games. I think that's just who Kirill Marchenko is. The shot volume is really good. Really no red flags in the data for him. Any quick thoughts on Kirill Marchenko?
No, I love it. Had a user reach out this week, mentioned that he traded Hischier for Marchenko, and I said, you know what, that's I like both those players, but at the same time, Love getting Marchenko, and he holds the right wing eligibility, which is a nice little boost of a feature. So yeah, I agree. Hold on to him. He loves to shoot, and I don't see last year's bad second half coming back around.
Yes. One of your busts in the preseason that you caught some flack about was Moritz Seider. Slow start to the season here, just 3 assists in 10 games. He grades out kind of just as a meh ad, really no metrics that suggest that things are going to get drastically better for him. The on-ice shooting percentage is actually at 15.5%. So just kind of dealing with a super low IPP right now, and it's really hurting him. So I think there's probably better days ahead. I don't necessarily know if he is like a fantastic. He has a 0% IPP, no 5v5 points this season. That's insane. So yeah, like I think he's a decent buy low candidate, but not somebody that like I'm actively targeting. I think in leagues where, the hits and the blocks where he like really excels, this is probably more of an opportunity in those leagues to try to prime away, just because he's not providing anything outside of that right now offensively. So in those leagues, I think he's a really nice target. In standard formats, I don't think that I'm really chasing him too much right now. How about you? You had him as a bust, so I'm assuming you're just off.
No, the reason I had him as a bust was for the non-banger leagues. Obviously, banger leagues, he has his value, and it's kind of all coming to fruition right here. If you're in a non-banger, you're realistically thinking about dropping him. If you're in a banger, I think definitely go for him. I think you could trade a bottom of your roster D-man, and if you could bring in Sider, he's going to bring in the points. But again, league dependent. So Brock put meh next to this one, and I would put meh in all capitals. So perfect.
Matvei Michkov, another one of the players you were very high on, or you were high on, sorry, but you were high on Michkov in the preseason, is not gone great. We got him as a buy low candidate here. Grades is the 39th best buy low candidate on the season at the moment. Just 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points in 9 games. I think the most concerning thing is just that we really haven't seen that ice time creep up like we thought it might. I think we talked about just, Rick Tocchet is kind of a similar structure, similar style coach to a John Tortorella, so I didn't expect massive changes, but the way he finished last year, I think Michkov, was in for a bigger year than what we saw this far. I do think that Michkov, Konechny, like those guys are going to start going. I think the offense will wake up a little bit in Philadelphia, but they're playing so well defensively. I don't think they need to change too much. So yeah, I don't mind a buy low on Michkov, but I wouldn't be giving up a tremendous amount for him. You were very high on the preseason. Quick thoughts.
Yeah, shot himself in the foot by literally injuring his ankle and showing up to camp just a little bit not in shape, they mentioned. And that's kind of what we're watching happen here. But I was nervous. I thought maybe, we'd have a week of this 14, 15 minutes, and I'd hope that it would go a little bit higher. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that. Shot production's been up a little bit lately, so we do love to see that. I think he makes a good buy low to the point where a lot of people are dropping him in leagues, which is absolutely bonkers to me. Too good of a player to be doing that, way too high of a ceiling to be doing that. So you can get this guy as a very low value. And realistically, I believe that there's certain leagues out there where Justin Brezzo could pull Michkov right now. And if you can do that, sprint to it and do it immediately.
Possible, yeah. He's down to 68% roster. Okay, let's get through these last few names quickly. Frank Nazar grades as the 48th best sell high. I think he's a great sell high option. I'm not a huge believer in things continuing the way they have gone thus far for the Blackhawks as a whole. Like, I think they're an exciting young team. I talked about it at the start of the year, though. I was nervous about Frank's ability to generate a lot of offense away from Connor Bedard after what we saw last year. They really haven't generated very much at all again this year. He's been getting very fortunate. I'm definitely trading Frank Nazar. I'm assuming you would as well, even though you love him.
Yeah, no, I love him and I love where he's gotten to, but it's kind of a lot like Shane Pinto. It's it's fantastic. Yeah. I think you get more than Pinto though, just especially after Bedard's recent Hattie. So yeah, love to see it. Frank Nazar pulling the fact that he can even pull any value. He was a free agent pickup this year, so we love to see it. He was also a breakout for me to enter the year, so good to see.
Brian Rust, just a hold for me, grades out very nicely. Maybe a little bit better of a sell high than a buy low, obviously, but I think he's in a fine spot. I would be holding him. Steven Stamkos, I think, is, again, I mentioned him at the start. I actually responded to a tweet this morning. It's like, is Stamkos cooked? And I think he is just more unlucky than he is bad or cooked, as the tweet put it. So yeah,
like, it was going rather viral. So
I don't know if it went viral per se, but
popping off.
So let's just see what we got.
One we're talking about here.
Let's see. Here we go. So yeah, he is 2.5 goals scored below expected, which is the 6th worst. 7 on ice goals scored below expected, 11th worst. He's shooting just 4% on ice, shooting just 5.6%. So yeah, I don't think that Stamkos is cooked. He's been really unlucky. I think he's a nice buy low. That's not going to cost you much. Svechnikov is probably the guy we get the most questions about. He grades out as an okay buy low. Again, like I think you can get him for like next to nothing. What is his like? Everyone is so fed up with him. His own percentage is down to 45%. Like you can get him for Justin Brezzo. I still think I would do that. Like I'm not the biggest believer in Svechnikov right now. I just don't think that Rod Brindamore likes him all that much. So I mean, yeah, like Brezzo is a perfect player to trade for him there. Elias Lindholm. Where did he go? There he is. Grades out just average. Like I think if I could get anything for him, I would trade him. Like I just don't imagine that there's going to be enough offense in Boston, even playing with David Pastrnak, to warrant much more. But yeah, the metrics suggest he's doing fine and it's sustainable enough. But so yeah, if you can get any value for him, like at all, like if you could trade him for like Mika Zibanejad, I would certainly be trying to do that. I'm assuming you agree there.
Totally. And I will say the viral tweet I mentioned earlier was from a different fantasy thing. I didn't realize that you got a direct one there, Brock. So that one did not go viral.
No, it did not. I was like, what
that
are you
makes
talking
way
about?
more sense. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Mason McTavish grades out nicely as just basically just a hold, maybe a slight buy low. I think like with the shot volume, playing with Cutter, I like McTavish, only 1 goal in nine games. I think he's a decent buy low option. Pavel Dorofeyev grades out nicely as a sell high. Again, similar to like a Cole Caulfield, yeah, you can sell high on him. He's lead time for the NHL leading goals. Shooting 27%, that's not going to continue. The shot volume is still really good. Still a really good player. If you can get a lot for him, sure, sell high on him. But I don't imagine. It just all depends on what the offer is. If you get any good offers for Dorofeyev, feel free to reach out to Beebs and I. We'd love to look at them. But I wouldn't be selling myself short there. Just an elite goal scorer. We've seen it the last 2 years, dating back to last season. He has 44 goals in his last 92 games. So yeah, he's a 40 goal scorer through and through. I like to buy low on Shea Theodore. That's the final one we're going to talk about here. Because it's been a bit of a sluggish start. He's seen some power play one time lately, which is better news for him. Obviously, some injuries have kind of opened the door for him to do that, but it doesn't look like Mark Stone's going to be back anytime soon. So I do think that Theodore's got a pretty cemented spot on that top power play unit now. No goals, 4 assists, but the shot volume still remains pretty decent. So yeah, I like Theodore as a buy low as well. Just before we go, or before we get to D, I guess, the D's weekend streamers, just want to give you a few more other buy lows that I really like. Like Alex DeBrincat's been incredibly unfortunate so far this year. Artemi Panarin, I mentioned him. Brandon Hagel, I think people, we talked about him a lot in the preseason. He just had a big game, so maybe it'll be a little bit more difficult. But like that one, Brayden Point for sure. I think one of the ones that stands out the most to me, and I'm surprised he doesn't rank higher, is Nikolai Ehlers. That top line has just been generating a shitload, and somehow Aho and Jarvis are just absolutely on fire. And Nick Ehlers just doesn't factor in on any of the goals, apparently. He has no goals, 3 assists in 9 games so far. So IPP for Ehlers, let me just see here. It is got to be just so low. So yeah, it is 37.5. So he is definitely a buy low, a guy that is going to factor in on a lot more than 37% of the goals this season. The 2 previous seasons, 75 and 78%. The year before that, 92%. Obviously not sustainable there. But yeah, just a guy that is a tremendous buy low candidate right now. Has he been getting dropped? Like, I don't even know. He's down to 83%. That's insane. Yeah. He's a great buy low option.
I've seen some like options getting traded for him, and they're not good. Like it's guys who are just hot off the wire getting traded for him, Brock. It's insane.
Yeah, I just want to dig into the data here really quick before we get to D's weekend streamers. Yeah, 1.5 goals scored below expected, 1.65 goals on ice goals scored below expected. So unlucky in that regard. And then just the fact that the IPP is sitting at 37%. I mean, there's just so much better days ahead. But that's going to do it for this edition of Waiver Wire Wednesday, which is more of a buy low, sell high edition. So now let's get over to the weekend streamers and Dylan D. Berthew. But Beebs, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you back here next week. I'm now joined by our guy, Dylan D. Berthium. D, we got a great contrast. I think it was the Sheet, Jeff Merrick's podcast the other day, asked, what are the best jersey matchups? And I said, the Maple Leafs blue and the Red Wings white is always a classic. But my all-time favorite was the Winter Classic at the Big House. The red versus the blue looked phenomenal. And we got that contrast going on today's show. It's probably the best jersey matchup we've had on the podcast to date.
Can't disagree. It's up there for sure. I mean, I don't know how many there are. We're pretty limited in the teams and the jerseys we rock, but maybe not Beebs though. Beebs has a ridiculous collection.
Absolutely. So we're going to go through today's strength of schedule for the weekend. As always, we got D's weekend streamers coming up. I talked about some of these names on Monday. D's going to go a little bit more in depth, and some additional names have been kind of unearthed as the week has progressed as well. But we mentioned at the start of the week, just a very difficult week for streaming in general. Only a handful of teams even had 2 late night games, and that was the most. And a lot of them didn't come until Friday, Sunday. So I told most of you to hold off and save your ads for the Friday, Sunday schedule so you could take advantage of D's weekend streamers. And without further ado, let's get into D's weekend streamers. Let's take a look at the strength of schedule here at dailyfaceoff.com. If you have never seen this tool, if you go to our standard weekly strength of schedule or weekly schedule and then click strength of schedule, that's how you get it. It updates daily. After each day is over, you get a new strength of schedule for the rest of the week. So this weekend, we've got the Anaheim Ducks playing the Red Wings and the Devils on Friday, Sunday. You got the Red Wings playing the Ducks and Sharks on Friday, Sunday. And you've got the Islanders playing the Capitals and the Blue Jackets on Friday, Sunday. So those are your 3 targets. D, why don't you get us started with the Anaheim Ducks?
Yeah, luckily, like you said, we do have 3 teams to look through, despite the fact that we only got 3 on Friday. But we'll start with the Ducks, like you said, alphabetical order here. The Ducks are hosting the Red Wings on Friday and then the Devils on Sunday. Leo Carlsson in shallower leagues, very obvious target. He's up to 42% owned. Certainly looks to be worthy of a long-term roster spot at this point. This guy has always obviously flashed a lot of talent and potential. And it seems like this could be his true breakout season. 11 points through his first 9 games while playing just under 19 minutes a night and shooting just under 3 times a game. So standard formats, definitely deserving of a long-term pickup. And even in shallower leagues, I think he's there at this point. But at the very least, of course, makes for a great option this weekend if he is available. In more standard size leagues, I think Troy Terry, 20% owned, is a great target. Shot volume hasn't been quite what we're used to seeing from Terry, but he's been nearly as productive as his line mate Carlson. 3 goals and 7 assists for 10 points in those opening 9 games. Should remain on the top line and power play unit throughout the weekend. And then in deeper leagues, I think you can take a look at Beckett Sinecki, 7% owned, though he's cooled off after a hot start. It's still worth a roll of the dice this weekend. Extremely talented young winger. He's been relegated to the second power play unit, but is skating with Mason McTavish and Cutter Gauthier at 5v5. And the 3 of them have absolutely dominated play in just over 80 minutes together, 5v5 time together. Over 41 scoring chances, 21 high danger chances per 60. Ridiculous stuff from the young trio. Future looks very, very bright in Anaheim. Any other names you like before we move on to the Red Wings, Brock?
No, I joked about it on the DFS show the other day. It was basically like, which Anaheim Ducks line do you play? And right now it seems to be whatever line Cutter Gauthier is on. He just has been unbelievable and really seems to be the straw that stirs the drink in Anaheim. And obviously the early portion of the season, you had McTavish and Seneca going off with Cutter, and then Gauthier was up to the top line with Leo Carlsson, and then all of a sudden Carlsson catches fire. Gauthier back on the second line. I think that brings Beckett Seneca back into the fold a little bit more. That second line, like you said, the underlying metrics are insane. So at the start of the week when Cutter was on the top line, I think that maybe I was leaning, maybe a little bit more towards some Red Wings as opposed to this Ducks second line. But now that Cutter's back down on that second line, I think that makes it expands the options a little bit. And just to your point about Leo Carlsson, dating back to last February 2nd, their first game in February last year, he finished the year with 29 points in 31 games. He has 11 points in his first 9 games. So he is a 40-point in 40 game player over his last 40 games. He is a point per game player and somehow still available in like almost 60% of leagues. It makes no sense. I said it on Monday. It's got to just be the strict center eligibility, right? Like that's got to be the only way he's still available. And I just kind of implore our listeners and viewers, like if you have Leo Carlsson still available on the waiver wire, even if you don't need a center, pick him up and move a bigger name center for a better winger or D or goalie, because he's the real deal and he needs to be owned in many more leagues than he is. But let's move on to the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, your Red Wings here. Unfortunately, not a ton of great options on the waiver wire. Pretty top heavy, and obviously most of those big guns you're not going to find available in your free agency pool. But I do think, despite the incredibly cold start to the season that Marco Kasper has had, he's still worth a look this weekend. Just 12% owned, a single goal and no assists on the season, but the underlying numbers suggest he's been pretty unfortunate. Him and Alex DeBrincat just under 100 minutes together at 5v5 and are dominating the shot attempts while averaging 27 scoring chances per 60. Pretty respectable rates there. Floodgate should open for them sooner than later, and why not this weekend with a pair of favorable matchups against the Ducks and the Sharks. Kasper, especially attractive in banger leagues as well. He's thrown the body around a lot this season, averaging just under 3 hits a game. That's all I really have for your Red Wings, Brock. I think Emmett Finney also worthy of a mention, but that's more for shallower leagues at this point. His ownership skyrocketed up to 42% this week. I'm sure that was a name that probably made a lot more sense when you talked about him earlier in the week. Any other names in Detroit that you want to throw out there?
No, start of the week, I said Kasper and Finney. Finney, I think, was 36%. So, yeah, he's come up a couple ownership points. But, yeah, Kasper, I think, is a player that's just been unfortunate to this point. And I talked about it in the preseason. You were a fan of Marco Kasper. I was a fan of Marco Kasper. And last year, him, DeBrincat, and Kane shot just like 6.6% together at 5v5. And it's like, that luck's going to turn this year. And it hasn't. It's actually gotten worse. Like, Alex DeBrincat might be the most unlucky player in the NHL right now. The amount of posts and just goals he should have had at this point that probably would have resulted in Marco Kasper points just haven't come. So I do think, like you said, the floodgates are due to open sooner rather than later. And yeah, unfortunately, just a team that's not all that deep in terms of pickups. I think if you are really desperate, like Mason Appleton in that top 6, I think provides a little bit of value, but not much. Maybe some JT Compher. But yeah, I just think there's better names in these other rosters.
Yeah, Comfort's another one that I think if you're really desperate is always worth a punt just because he's going to be out there so much. He's always got a chance of finding the score sheet, but not someone you can project or predict with any regularity. So I agree.
No, not at all. Let's move on to the New York Islanders, the third and final team of the weekend.
Yeah, the Islanders are in Washington on Friday, and then we'll host the Blue Jackets on Sunday. So not the best streaming schedule, but we cannot afford to be picky this weekend. And thankfully, I think there are 3 really good options on Long Island, all sub 20%. We'll start in order of that ownership rate with Captain Anders Lee, just 17% owned, playing down on the third line and second power play unit, but true to form, he continues to fire the puck on net at a near elite rate, especially for where his ice time's at right now. Averaging 3 shots a game, has 2 goals and 6 assists through his first 9 games. So I think it's still a very viable option this weekend. He shoots the puck so much that whenever the schedule lines up right, I think it's worth getting Anders Lee in your lineup. And then we have forever our favorite streaming target, Kyle Palmieri, 9% owned, seeing a ton of ice time. Technically second line and first power play unit, but is skating alongside Barzell at 5v5, which is where I'd want to be if I'm trying to put up points in this lineup. Palmieri off to a really nice start to the season, 30 shots, 4 goals, 3 assists in his opening 9 games. One of my favorite targets, if not my favorite of the entire weekend slate, considering the ownership, available in 91% of leagues. And then I think if you're just chasing points or assists this weekend, then Jonathan Drouin at 5% owned could make a lot of sense. Don't expect him to find the back of the net. You never should with Drouin, just a single goal in the season, but he does have 5 assists while playing on the Isles first line and power play unit. Just always a really good bet to find the score sheet this weekend and help pad your assist totals.
Yeah, like there's more options. Like I feel a little bit better about the Islanders' depth pieces than probably the Red Wings. Like I think Emil Heineman you could throw in there in shallow leagues or deep leagues, where you're just super desperate and just trying to find a name. Like the underlying metrics for the third line with Pajot, Holmstrom, and Lee are really good. So like I think Pajot plays a decent amount of ice time. If you're desperate and some of these other bigger names aren't available, I think that Pajot is a decent fallback option. Obviously not your first choice, to be sure, but somebody that can contribute the way that third line has played. But man, Kyle Palmieri just always finds a way to make his way onto the show. It just does not disappoint. He's like literally always 10% owned, and we get to talk about him like 7 times a year, and it brings a little twinkle to my eye. So love me some Kyle Palmieri. Any final thoughts before we head out for the weekend?
No, just like I said, I was trying to look at some of the goalie potential back-to-backs. There's not a lot of great options. I think maybe the most viable would probably be Elvis for the Blue Jackets on Long Island on Sunday. Elvis played tonight on the second end of that back-to-back against the Maple Leafs, so should most likely be Greaves again on Saturday. And then if you want to get out ahead of it, like I said, Merzlikins probably, if we're talking money line, would probably have the best matchups out of any of the backups that are going to get in there. You could roll the dice on the Philly netminder playing the Flames with how much they've struggled, but that's a little bit more of a dangerous play when it comes to the splits, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Sam Ersson would definitely be risky. If you're chasing a win, though, like I think that the Flyers, as good defensively as they've been, can certainly beat the Flames. So I don't mind Sam Ersson if you're just chasing a win. A lot of times on Sunday, you're just like, hey, I just need a W. My splits are already thrown out the window. I don't think he's a terrible option. And even Nedeljkovic or Askarov, the Sharks have looked a lot more competitive in the last week or so. And against the Red Wings on Sunday, I don't think they're certainly not going to be favorites, but it feels like a somewhat winnable game there. So yeah, I think that you could probably go there. And then the other back-to-back is the Flames in Philadelphia. Again, that team has played very poorly, but Devin Cooley looked pretty good in his first start. If it ends up being him, I mean, you got to get desperate here. As always, at dailyfaceoff.com, we've got your starting goalie rankings for each day. So be sure to check that out to make sure you're making the right choice on which backup goalie to start on the second half of a back-to-back. And with that, Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. That was D's Weekend Streamers. We'll see you back here next Thursday.
Cheers, Brock. Appreciate you, bud.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.